Hey friends, hi. I'm so glad that you're joining me again today, and I'm here with another Bible story. So this comes from our Jesus Storybook Bible, and this is the second story that you should be reading this week, and maybe you've already read it. So this story, it's got a lot of kind of crazy things in it. So number one, it has a bush in it, okay? So like this thing outside, like a bush is like a small tree. It's usually a little wider, and it is burning, but it's not burning up, okay? So it catches Moses' attention. So I'll talk about that in a minute, but there's also some other crazy things in here. So as I tell the story back to you, you may have already read it, but I'm going to tell it to you in my words and see if you can catch all of the crazy things, okay? So this story comes from the book of Exodus, our chapters 3 through 13. And Joseph and his brothers, they had gotten old, lived a long time, and they were old and they died, and so, but they had other kids, so they had a big family. So these kids had kids, and so there was a bunch of people, and so these were all God's people. These were the Israelites, and they were living in this land, and there was this mean kind of king guy, who's in charge of that area, and he was like being really mean to God's people. And I don't think he really knew about God. So he's about ready to find out, cause this story, Moses was a man, and he is just like walking along, and he sees this bush, and this bush is burning. So he sees flames, but it's not burning up. So the leaves and everything are still there, which was really kind of odd. So that's number one odd thing. And he's like, that's really weird. And so he draws a little closer to it, gets a little closer, and what happens? But God starts speaking to Moses right there out of that bush. Well, I'm sure that Moses was kind of freaking out just a little bit. Well, God told Moses that he had a plan for his people, and that Moses needed to listen to him and obey and do what he told him to do. So it took a little bit. Moses, he was like, Moses really didn't think that he should be in charge and be telling people what to do, and that he wanted somebody else to do the job for him. But God told him it was him, that he could do it. And so he goes on and he tells Moses to tell his people, tell Pharaoh, that's like the king, to let his people go. And don't enslave them anymore. They don't have to stay there and do all of this really, really hard work for nothing. And, well, so Moses went to Pharaoh and told him, and Pharaoh's like, what? God who? What are you talking about? He did not understand. So God said, you gotta let my people go or some bad stuff's gonna happen. Well, it wasn't just bad stuff. Let me tell you, it was crazy stuff. So there was, all of a sudden, they had a river, okay, and they got their water from this river. All of a sudden, the river turned red and into blood. Ooh, so they couldn't drink it. And, well, Pharaoh still did not, say, hey, y'all can go. So God got his attention a couple other times. So one of them was with frogs. So do you like frogs? I love frogs. It was one of my mom's favorite creatures were frogs. And so I really love frogs, but I don't like to touch them. And I wouldn't want them in my bed. And I wouldn't wouldn't want them crawling on me. I just like to look at them. I don't really like to touch them. So there was a plague of frogs. So there's like tons and tons of frogs all over the place. Well, you think that that would make Pharaoh, crazy enough that he'd be like, go, you can go. But you know what? He kept changing his mind. He'd say, yeah, y'all can go. But then they'd all leave and he's like, no, I've changed my mind. Y'all gotta come back. So they had gnats and flies. So here's some picture. Can you imagine? I mean, I've been some places before. There are lots of flies. Oh, or gnats. Oh, and they're so annoying. They're like flying all over you. That would be really horrible. So he had all of this craziness go on, and then he made the whole light fade out, so it was only darkness. So when it was supposed to be daytime, it was dark. Dark as night. And so, you know what? Again, Pharaoh wasn't listening, and he wasn't obeying God, what God wanted him to do. So finally, the worst thing, he's like, you know what? If you're not going to listen, the worst thing is going to happen. And Pharaoh's like, whatever. Okay, what can be worse than all of this? Well, God said that the firstborn, their oldest child, all would die. So that would be really scary. So all the Israelites, he wanted to be able to save them. So he had them kill a perfect lamb that they had, the best one that they had, and then take the blood and put it over their doors. So they had to paint this over their doors. And so then when God came through, he would see that this was an Israelite home, and he would pass over it. So that's the word Passover. And in our Bible and in church, you may hear that word Passover. And you might wonder, what does that mean? What is Passover? It's even on our calendars. It talks about Passover. Well, Passover, that's what this is talking about. It's when the Lord passed over these homes, okay? And so what happens, but in the morning, Pharaoh wakes up, and yes, his firstborn child is gone, and all of the other people, their firstborn child was gone, except for the Israelites. So Pharaoh's like, fine, go. Just get out of here, leave. I want you all to leave. And so here's a picture of it. So right then, they all jumped up, and boom, they all left and started leaving, and were on their way. They were on their way to somewhere better, and God was rescuing them, all right? So this is really a story about rescue. And how does this relate to Jesus? You might be wondering. Well, right here, it explains that, and I'm going to read that part to you, where it says, many years later, God was going to do it again. He was going to come down once more to rescue his people. But this time, God was going to set them free forever and ever. He's talking about Jesus there. So, this story is not over. So, Pharaoh let him go, but, dun, dun, dun. There's more to this story. And that's in your next story that we're going to read on Sunday, that we're going to do. So that's next week's story. So you can get a jump on it if you want to read ahead and find out what happens, or you can just wait. But there is definitely more to this story. You think Pharaoh's done? You think he just let him go? Even after all of that, after all the frogs, after all the gnats and the flies, and they had sores. After all of that, after the darkness, after losing his child, do you think that Pharaoh finally said, okay, it's done? I don't think so. He should have. But there's more to part of this story. So check back next week and you're going to hear the rest of that story about the Israelites and about Pharaoh and Moses, and let's see how God rescues them, because God's with them and he's going to rescue them. So I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you can get outside and see some frogs. See how many frogs you can find. Do you want to touch a frog? I don't know. I'm not going to touch a frog, but you could. You can send me a picture of it. I'd love to see it. See you later. Bye.